It's time for a good old-fashioned beer review. Hello and welcome back to the channel, and yes, it is time for a classic beer review. I've not done one for a little while, and the truth of the reason behind it is I've just not been really all that excited about much beer. I've certainly not been drinking anywhere near as much, and what I have been drinking, I'll be honest, is mostly Budvar and Guinness due to recent sporting events. That has kind of summed up the start of my year. Anything that has been interesting and I've come across, I've either delivered as a review or posted about on my Instagram stories, and yeah, there's not been a great deal of it. Though the other day I was, well, to be honest, emptying my fridge out, and yeah, I spotted this at the back. This is Erdinger Dunkel. It is a dark Weiss beer, and it's for sale in Tesco at the moment for just over £2 a bottle, which in today's beer economy is an absolute steal, provided it's any good at all. Now, as many of you will know, I'm a massive fan of German beer. I am a big fan of Weiss beer. It doesn't always get along with me that well. It can be a bit of a hangover-inducing monster, so I don't drink loads of it, but I do genuinely enjoy the experience, though I particularly enjoy dark German beers, and whilst I've definitely had dark Weiss beers in the past, I've not had heaps of them, so this not a new experience, but not one I can definitely call back on easily. Now, a quick look at the bottle. It is just distinctly Erdinger. It's got this nice kind of brown and gold labelling. It's a little difficult to get the picture right in the camera under the lights because it's very reflective if I do it that way, and if I point it a bit more forward it kind of loses any depth with that coloration. But in person it is a very nice looking thing to look at. The back of it is all in German, as it is with most of these, so there's not much point in sharing it with you, but anyway, let's get it open. And I will be using my new Erdinger glass for the first time, which, well, I have cleaned, but not very well, apparently. I'm slightly concerned about this. But anyway, too late now. All in. Well, that hasn't exactly gone to plan. We've not had a crummy pour for a good while on this channel, and I think today ends that trait, because I know Weiss beers are meant to be big and foamy and all the rest of it, but well, that is quite a picture.
A few moments later.
Okay, I'm hoping it's just about settled enough to get the rest of this in. There's a couple of inches left in the bottom of the glass, so we'll swill it all around, get that yeasty goodness out, plunge it in, and I'll hope it doesn't go everywhere. Or not.
A few inches later.
Okay, I have managed to get all of it into the glass, but as you can tell, it's still very, very active. The dome on it is actually wider than the top of the glass itself, which is worrying me a lot. I daren't pick it up just yet, but well, I guess we'll wait a few more moments and give it a proper look.
A few minutes later.
Alrighty, it's just about safe to pick up. If I hold it up to the light, it's got this deep, dark, rich, almost chocolatey tone to it. It looks pitch black in my camera monitor. How dark it really looks for you, I can't really say. But from here, with the light behind, it's definitely a very dark, like mahogany brown colour. Tints of red to it, but yeah, quite a chocolate mud pie vibe, if I'm totally honest. It looks the beer's nice foamy, definitely off-white head on it. Yeah, looks very nice indeed, and actually that glass wasn't as in bad a state as maybe I thought it might be. But anyway, aroma time. Always difficult with the Weiss beer. That big layer of foam really can just inhibit some of those beautiful aromas getting out, but big, soft, pillowy, say it about most of them, the depth of head on it really interprets into the aroma and the flavour. Absolutely no surprise that big Weiss beer yeasty note is there as well. It's big, it's funky, but it's also sweet, it's also soft, it's also lightly fruited. Of course, top fermented beer this, so yeah, it's to be expected. And I'm trying to pick out some other tones. There's definitely a dark fruit element, but it's not the main kind of, the main stage, the main appeal. It's got something darker, something richer. It's not quite going full coffee. Maybe it's more dark chocolatey, but it's roasty without being anything distinct is probably what I'm trying to say. You could liken it to coffee, you could liken it to dark chocolate, you could liken it to licorice, but it doesn't really taste like any of them properly. Sorry, smell like any of them properly. It's just reminiscent of the roastiness of all three, but not much else. So let's get into it, shall we? Cheers. That glass is like trying to pick up a chair leg full of beer, but my instant reaction is £2 a bottle. Let's just go now. Like, you can stop this video and just go and buy it, because it doesn't matter whether it's better or worse than anyone else's. In this economy, as I've already said, £2 for that, absolutely stunning. Now, it isn't the biggest, brashest, bestest of Weiss beers I've ever had, for sure. The price, though, probably an indicator of that. And let's be frank, Erdinger have always kind of trod the line of the approachable Weiss beer. They aren't Francis Connor. They're not trying to do this big, rich, depthy experience. It's making Weiss beer palatable and manageable for people who like all sorts of different things, and this is definitely along the same route. I definitely prefer it to the original Erdinger. This is much more well, just a bit more considered. That darker malt, that roast malt, just brings an element of roastiness, a bit of an extra edge that just tweaks it up a notch, really, for me. It just makes it a little bit more interesting, but without really taking away any of the accessibility. It is very nice indeed. Anyway, enough waffling. Let's take this chair leg and give you a proper top to bottom taste test. So initially, right on the tip of the tongue. Oh, I've not picked up on it before, but right on the tip there, you get this big, rich, almost woody effect. It's something that, to be honest, I would feel like I'd be more likely to talk about in a whiskey review than a beer review. It has got this nice, almost charred barrel note up the front there, of course, from that roasted malt, but it's very distinct, very much active. And then over the mid palate, it evolves a bit, becomes more that kind of generic bitterness. It's not quite coffee, it's not quite chocolate. A little bit of vanilla starts to creep in as well, which makes you think maybe, yeah, more chocolatey than any of the others. And you start to get that approach of the deep, dark, rich fruit. The fruity tone comes from the yeast, that open top fermentation, but, well, that normally gives you something kind of spritzy, fruity. It's tropical come stone fruit. It's not really citric, but it's more fresh than that. It can be berries, it can be orange, it can be those kind of things. Whereas this is, and I think because of that roast malt, leading it into more of a depth. We're heading more towards like fruits of the forest. What's the word I'm looking for? Like a black forest gatto, cherries, berries, that kind of thing. And then over the back of the tongue, super spritzy right there. You get a load of carbonation release on the back of the tongue, and with it, it brings back that woody note from the front of the tongue, and it goes a step further. It becomes slightly spicy, slightly. It's not pepper, it's not paprika. It's a difficult one for me to nail down, if I'm honest. Normally, a lot of Weiss beers go down the route of being a bit like coriander seed, or even what's the other one? Clove. Clove was the thing I was trying to get to, but it's not quite that either. It's just got this kind of, yeah, smoky, almost. It's almost drifting into a slightly medicinal tone. It's very whiskey remnants, this beer. I'm picking up a lot of similarities, just on obviously a much softer and more accessible scale that I would with some pretty out there scotches. So yeah, an interesting one. But anyway, then onto the aftertaste. Sweetens off, back in, slightly fruity, kind of raspberry is the one that comes to mind, strawberry perhaps, and it leaves you with this soft kind of burnt fudgy bonfire toffee thing, which is very common in beers of this type. So, you know what? For what I said was not a particularly complex beer, I'm kind of changing my mind. And I think this is the reason. This, on a simple sipping pass, if you really just drink it like you drink beer, like we all do most of the time, it isn't that complicated. You go, oh, that's a bit smoky, that's got a bit of something extra, but otherwise, it's an Erdinger Weiss beer. You know where you stand. It's very approachable. You let it sit on your palate for a minute, try and pick it apart. All of a sudden, there's 101 flavours that you simply never even realised. It is a beer that can do lots of things for lots of different people. It can be that beer just to try and get your mate who's not that into exciting beer to try something new, and they may take to it. But on the flip side, if you want to sit there and really focus and savour on something, it can do that as well. And well, to be honest with you, as I said, the biggest pull of this right now is that frankly ridiculous just over £2 price tag. Just before we wrap this up, it has occurred to me that we've not talked about the ABV, and I'm sure it's nothing too crazy or too ridiculous either way, but as with a lot of German beers, it's very small and hard to find. 5.3%. So historically not sessionable, in recent times very tame. It's just the way of the world of these days. But I have just noticed that this goes out of date, or it's best before indeed, in a month's time. So this has probably been made the best part of a year ago, and it still tastes absolutely fantastic. So yes, I mean, I can't sing its praises anymore for the price. If this had been a £6 or £7 bottle from a specialist, I'd have probably gone, you know what, if I see that on tap somewhere, I'll buy it, but I probably won't buy any more just to keep in the house. But at that price, yeah, a daily sipper, or don't drink daily, but you know what I mean, that weekend beer with the sports on, whatever it is, yeah, I think it is an absolute steal and a very good beer. I can't pick anything wrong with it. It's perfectly good. Maybe it's gone a bit flat in the glass, but my initial pour wasn't exactly the best either, so maybe we can't hold it for that. But yes, the only maybe negative is, I mean, that as a glass, that is an event. That's all I can really say. But yeah, that really is all I've got to say about it as well. So as always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you haven't already, subscribe if you will be so kind. And I'll catch you next time. Cheers.